you guys don't know Jordan or follow him, he's done fitness coaching, he's done door-to-door sales. He is the most disciplined guy I know.
My discipline has come from door to door. With every door comes the opportunity to learn how to control yourself and be disciplined, right? It takes a lot of discipline to be told to F off and to take that with a grain of salt and truly turn it around into a positive experience and continue to knock doors and not be affected by those things. I always say, Sam Taggart's great. His superpower is he just doesn't care, right? He just doesn't care. And that's something that took me a long time to develop. I used to take things personally. I used to be out of shape. I used to be a victim, even in door to door. I didn't realize that it was going to take something, kind of a wake up call for me. And over time, that discipline has developed. But truly, I believe my speaking skills, my leadership skills, my commitment to the gym, my commitment to my schedule, my commitment to I don't really watch TV. I read a lot of books. I work all the time. All of that has really come from, and it sounds so cliche based on the webinar that we're on, but from all the doors that I've knocked because it's given me such an opportunity to be able to learn how to control myself. And that control or those skills and control has translated into every other area of my life.
Yeah, no, I love that for sure. Why can most people not handle that type of discipline or that kind of ownership of like your own schedule and door to door? Why do you think?
I was talking to one of my sales managers the other day, and he's been having a little bit of trouble. And I knew he was going to ultimately reveal this to me at some point in the conversation. There were a lot of other reasons why things weren't going well. And he finally just broke down. He's like, I effing hate knocking doors. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I knew you were going to say that. I knew this was, I know what I'm looking at. And the reason you love going to everyone else's closes and you love doing everyone else's inspections and you're not selling yourself is because you hate people. And he's like, yeah, I hate people. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, here's the thing you need to understand, Ryan. You can't become a good door knocker unless you learn how to love people,
Mhm.
truly love people. And a lot of people get into my trainings, they're like, I didn't realize I was coming to a marriage counseling class or I was coming to a philosophical, symposium here. But what really I would say more than anything else, it's my love for the doors and my love to serve people and to find solutions for people. And that sounds crazy because people want to come to these webinars like, well, how do I make more money? How do I create more success so I put more money in my pocket? I'm like, guys, you got to understand this. When I go to a door, I view that person as an individual. I view that person as a father or a mother. I'm in roofing, restoration roofing. I've been through a water damage claim on my own property. My daughter slept on the couch for 18 months. I spent $60,000 on a new HVAC system, a new drywall, a new foundation. I've been through that pain. And so I've connected myself to this love for people, and I've realized that I can do anything if I love people. And that even translates into the discipline for the gym and for, my personal life. I love my kids so much that I would never want to go to my grave knowing that I didn't show them that I could be more and they could be more as well too. And so you ask how you create discipline. There's really two ways. Number one is you kind of fake it till you make it, right? Or like, my dad has always said, if you want to fall asleep, you have to pretend that you're asleep. That's the way to fall asleep. Like you can't go in and keep your eyes open the whole time. And so, when it comes to running a business, building a business, knocking doors, whatever it may be, you got to do the thing first, right? And you got to do it over and over and over again. And Tony Robbins talks about that a lot. He's like, look, you can force yourself to love tomato juice. You just got to drink a lot of tomato juice, right? Same thing goes with burpees, it goes with working out, it goes with
I've done burpees way too many times with Jordan, and I hate burpees, but somehow he still makes me do burpees.
absolutely 120, right?
I,
Straight.
I'll never, every time I do a burpee, I'll never not think of you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So any type of discipline you're looking for, and that's, I tell that to reps all the time, and I tell it to business owners all the time too. I'm like, you kind of have to do the thing, and you can't ever really get away from the thing. I don't, in my position here, I don't have to knock doors. We're currently sitting at, almost 300 sales for the month, and I don't need to knock any of those doors, but I still do it mainly because I'm a big believer that at the end of the day, you have to be pragmatic and you have to be practical and you have to be somebody who is willing to never forget like the small things that we have to do to create those types of activities. And so first and foremost, I think, activity, but number two is learn to love the activity. In fact, I love this phrase. It's develop a taste for blood, right? Where it's like, great fighters are people who are like, if one of us got punched in the face and got blood in our mouth, we would freak out, right? We're like, oh my God, yeah, something's going wrong, right? And great fighters say, this is just a consequence of fighting. This is what I do. And if I get blood in my mouth, if I break out a tooth, if I get a black eye, if I bust a blood vessel, that's a consequence of the fight. And I think that, great, leaders who develop great discipline are people who are just like, look, I've just developed this taste for constant failure. And I realize that failure is part of the job and difficulty is part of the job. And getting punched in the face or feeling like my business is burning down is part of the job. Knocking doors is part of the job. And so developing that taste for blood and being okay with that blood in your mouth is also probably one of the biggest things you can do to kind of create discipline is to not freak out and just be okay with the pain. It is innate.
Yeah. No, you said some powerful things to me. I love just like finding joy in the journey. There, you can always look at another job of like grass is greener on the other side. This is going to be great. This is a new
Sure.
shiny object. At the end of the day, there's no matter what job you do, there's going to be some sucky things. There's going to be some things you enjoy doing and some things you absolutely hate about the job, and just finding joy in that. And the second thing that I absolutely love is the people that I know that succeed the most in door to door absolutely care about people. And you look at you, Jordan, and Ashton Buswells of the world, and those that just like care about people and treat people right and just show up with a smile and make their day better. And sales is going so good for him. Like it's just something that he carries with him. And I love that so much. It's
Bring up a good point, actually. Ashton came and stayed at my house like a couple of months ago. We're really good friends. We own another business together, and so we talk often. But he had come up and he had also met some of my partners for the first time. And about a month later, we received a letter in the mail, and it was from Ashton.
yep,
And just this, we've all gotten those letters from Ashton Buswell, but just like, thank you so much. It was such a treat. And he sent it to like my partners who met, and they were just astonished. Like this man possesses so much love and so much care for people, and that's why you can never stop him, right? Like Ashton Buswell is an unstoppable force. And if you don't know who he is, go follow him on Instagram. His training, his coaching, his leadership is literally unrivaled. And he's taught me a bunch of that as well. The other thing too, to really love people, I was sitting with Dave Meltzer in Southern Florida. We had dinner together and we were talking about this concept, about loving people. And he said this before, but he kind of explained it for me. He's like, look, Jordan, only hurt people. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that before. He's like, yeah, but have you ever had compassion on those hurt people who are trying to hurt you? And I was like, actually, no, I haven't. He's like, look, when you have someone who is rude to you, someone who mistreats you, a guy who cuts you off on the freeway, he's like, not only should you say, man, they're hurting, he said, you should have compassion on that person and say, man, I really hope that person's doing better. And I really want to help that person. And that may be to a circumstance where we do need to work through some objections and work. This might, my product or my service or my coaching might still be the best thing for them, but to love them helps you uncover some of those things that to where you truly can serve them as well too. So absolutely, it's like, again, I don't want you to think that we're too abstract here, but truly loving people will pay you gobs of money to solve their problems if they feel like you're authentic. And that's actually what I think. Salespeople think what they lack is skills, and you can find skills anywhere. There's lots of gurus out there that teach you skills. What they can't teach you is authenticity. And so people ask me like, Jordan, how are you so good on the doors? I'm like, because when people answer the door for me, or like an Ashton Buswell, or like, like a Chad Thompson, or even Sam Taggart, right? They're like, this guy's real. Like human beings are emotionally perceptive, and they can feel, they can smell bullshit from a mile away. And so the best door-to-door people or best salespeople or best business owners, people can tell that they care about them and really want to serve them.
right. No, that's so true. Being authentic, it's something hard that's taught. You can learn the scripts, you can learn the hard work, and but really learning to just care about other people and loving other people, it's so huge in this space. I love it. Jordan, how many reps do you guys have over at Rose now?
Oh gosh. I'm in a really good position now to where I don't know all of our
You
reps.
don't know. I love that. And I don't need an answer, but I'm just trying to prove a point here that you work with a lot of people, a lot of personalities, a lot of different reps. Everyone operates differently. And, how do you get them to make that mental shift and help them thrive in this kind of career?
Oh gosh. It's hard. I always talk to our new, so we hire about 40 people a week. And I always talk to the new classes if I have time. I don't always, but every Monday I like to go in. We have two training classes a week, but typically in the Monday class I'll go in and I'll just kind of talk to them and I'll ask them like, "Hey, who here just really can say I love every homeowner?" And it's very rare that anyone answers their hand. And, I say, look, the best way that you can do that is to put it into practice. Like it is something like people say, well, I'm not a very loving person naturally. Or the same thing like tomato juice. I don't really love tomato juice. Well, the only way to develop a love for it is to do it over and over and over again. I'm like, so people get stuck in, especially in sales to where they're like, well, I'm not there yet and I'm not going to get there. Well, number one, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy if you say that, like you'll never get there. But number two, the more you do it, the more you'll find joy in serving those people, right? And truly, I think you and I have seen so many people come and go in the door-to-door space. And we'll find that most of the people who are there for a short term are very inauthentic people, right? You can sell somebody something, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a long career in sales. The people who have a long career in sales are the people who truly do over time learn to truly care about people. So number one is repetition, right? And then the second thing is it really is a mental practice. Like people will tell me, I'm just a really angry person. Well, guess what? You can become a non-angry person, right? People will say like, oh, I have no idea how to be present in the moment. Well, guess what? It takes practice to be present in the moment. So just like that, you kind of have to stop and you actually have to practice learning how to love people, right? And some great ways to do that, something that I do in neighborhoods, when I'm feeling that way, I have to stop when I'm knocking doors and I'll have to say something to the effect of like, okay, look, I'm surrounded by fathers. I'm a father, right? I'm surrounded by homeowners. I'm a homeowner. I'm surrounded by people who are absolutely terrified, of financial consequences, which I'm absolutely terrified of financial consequence. I live in Northern Virginia, which is the most expensive place in the world. I live in the most expensive county tax-wise in the whole entire country. And I'm constantly, feeling that fear and anxiety of that. And so I'm like, wow, everybody else is feeling that as well. I can't imagine what that feels like. I would want someone to tell me if they had a solution for me that would take some of that stress and anxiety off of me. And that's the practice that I do often, even with customers that are difficult customers, even with reps, right? Where it's like, this guy drives me nuts, or like, I absolutely want to cut this guy. I have to take stock and say, what am I missing here? And how can I truly connect with the things that they are feeling? I see one of my reps on this on the call as well too. What's up, Anthony? But that's kind of what I do. It's a constant practice, and we falter at it all the time. We have to get back on the horse and continue
Yeah.
to just it. Yeah.
Yeah, I also noticed Mr. Stephen Pritchard on the call and
Oh gosh, he's here to
go
make fun of me.
Going back to him though, he is one of the number one people that I see that's just happy. He is the most non-angry person ever. He has fun doing anything. Cleaning up crap off the bathroom floor when the toilet overflows, Steven's laughing and having a good time. Like he does not get angry. And I think there's something to say for that. That's why you can continue in this career and be in door to door for so long is just like we said, finding joy in the journey, having a good time, caring about other people, and that's something that he emulates as well. So
And he
I
loves ice cream. He loves ice cream, and he's. I, there's a report button here. Should I just report Steven? I'm going to click report.
kick
Report
him off, would you?
it.
No, I love it. Okay, I want to jump over to, 1099 and we talk about this freedom that it gives everyone, but it's interesting to me because freedom actually requires the most discipline.
Yeah.
So I think everyone sets up this wrong expectation of like, I'm going to do door-to-door sales. It's going to be so flexible. I'm going to stay at home with my family. I'm going to chill every morning. I can wake up at whatever time. It's hilarious to me. that's the expectation, and they don't realize that everyone that actually has this freedom in door-to-door space is the most disciplined. And like going back to you being the most disciplined, what are the things that you're extremely disciplined in life, Jordan, that has helped you succeed? Talk to me about your daily wins and your morning wins and what that looks like, and how you're able to be the most incredible, husband and father to your girls, and how that's attributed to you being great in door to door.
Yeah, well, and that's a big vote of confidence. I always feel like I'm falling short and never really meeting the mark. But my dad is an entrepreneur. He's a chiropractor, and he's been in business for himself for 50 years. He's almost 80 years old. Same practice, same building. And my dad told me something when I first decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. He said, "Look, freedom is not that you get to work Monday and take Tuesday off, work Wednesday, take Thursday off." Now he's in that place, but he's worked for 50 years in the same place. But he's like, what it means is that you get to work your ass off for 20 years and then you have enough money to where you do have some freedom. He's like, that's the freedom that entrepreneurship gives. It's very front loaded in work. And if you do it right, then it's very much on the back end. It's a big reward. But even within that, like I remember I was, and I don't do this to brag or anything, but I remember I had this experience. I was sitting on a veranda in Malta, which is in the Mediterranean Sea. This is in 2020, right before COVID. And my wife and my youngest daughter Isla was just barely born. She was 6 months old. But we're sitting in Malta and we're sitting overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. And just, I turned my phone off and we were just enjoying the breeze, overlooking the ocean, eating lunch. And I was like, this is the freedom that working my ass off provides, right? This is the freedom to be able to provide these amazing things for my children. That's the type of freedom I'm looking for. And if that means that I've got to slave away, 80 hours a week, for the majority of the months of the year so I can take a 1 week vacation to where I can provide this amazing experience and core memories for my family. That's what I want to do. And that's the mistake that most people make in, this no ceiling 1099 entrepreneur model where it's like we all run into this with our reps, or if you're a rep, you run into this yourself, where you make this mistake of saying that, great, I get to sleep in, I get to, come home early, I can take a Wednesday. Who takes Wednesday off? I want to take a Wednesday off, or just take, 3 weeks off, and it's like, no, that's not freedom. That's slavery, actually. You're putting yourself in a financial position and in a lack of discipline situation to where you're going to start and stop and start and stop and start and stop, and it creates this big obstacle for you. It's kind of like everyone's always looking for the shortcut, but the shortcut is actually the long road, because if you try and take shortcuts, you always fail and you always have to start over again. Versus if you just stay consistent in your discipline, it's a lot easier to get where you're looking to go. So a couple of things, that I've really done is people ask me, I typically wake up between 4:30 and 5 every day. And people ask me like, how do you wake up so early? I'm like, well, I go to bed early. And people were like, you must just be a morning person. I'm like, no, naturally I'm not. I'm actually an evening person. Naturally, I used to stay up super late. I used to binge watch TV. I used to, go down the rabbit hole of YouTube, which I still do sometimes on the YouTube thing. But I started making sacrifices, and I said, in order for me to be able to wake up early and really win the day, I've got to go to bed earlier. And first that was just heavy melatonin every single night. I did whatever I could, to just dose myself and go to sleep. But I started waking up earlier. And the biggest thing too is working out and going to the gym. Even, I try to progress more and more every year. But even when I first started working out, I don't think I was nearly as efficient as I am now. But that alone, taking the time to be able to build myself personally. I love what my friend Carter Copeland, he's big in the solar space. He would always say, my workday starts at 6 a.m. at the gym. He's like, because that's the thing that sets up my whole entire day. And then one of the biggest things that I did is I realized that there was never any TV show that I could remember that changed my life. And so I decided that TV was no longer an important thing. And so I really gave up television in a really big way several years ago, to where it freed up so much of my time to where I could go to bed early, to where I could wake up early. And I started kind of living in reality rather than living in a fantasy world. And then the other thing that I did is, some of you have partners, some of you don't. But I got with my wife and I said, here are the goals that we want to accomplish as a family. are you willing to sacrifice these things with me? And so we sacrifice them together. My wife and I wake up early together. We go to the gym together. We go to bed together. We're united in our goals together. And so little things like that really matter. And again, people want to hear like, well, what'd you do to optimize your business? I started waking up early. Well, what'd you do to make more money? I started going to the gym. And it's so confusing to some people because they're like, well, that doesn't translate, tit for tat into a dollar. I'm like, oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because those types of disciplines, like if you can wake up at 5 a.m. and you can be at the gym and put in a really like a truly hard workout. If you can do 150 burpees in a row and make it, and I hate burpees, by the way, but I still do them. Then when you're on the doors, or then if your business feels like it's melting down, those things are easy. It's called stress inoculation. If you inoculate yourself, Stephen Pritchard says lies. Don't worry,
Listen, you and I have not won until we can get Steven to do the 120 burpees with us.
I know. He'll
Not succeeded.
he has them in secret. Don't worry, Steve, my ice cream machine's just around the corner here. So, um, but it really is in the little things, and I think that's really where the big wins are for people. What they don't understand is like it's not about putting in 18 hours a day in your business. It's about putting, 12 hours a day into, your personal development, which your business is part of that as well, too, right? But I would
Yeah.
say the little things are actually what create the big wins in regard to discipline.
Yeah. No, gosh, two things on that. I just read this story about a fisherman, and it talks about there's two different fishermen. One goes out fishing. He leaves the house at 7 a.m. He lollygags. He gets breakfast. He takes his time. Takes him 3 hours. He's got to buy supplies. He sets it up. He only has his line in the water for actually an hour. On the flip side, the other guy leaves at the exact same time, gets out, gets his line in the water. It's there for 3, 4 hours, and they get home by the same time. The guy that's got his line in the water actually for the majority of the time is going to see that the wins, see the success from that. He's going to get the more fish. And I love that. He's going to take home more. So many times we're like, gosh, we were so busy, we were working all day, but actually were we? Like how disciplined were we in our day and how much did we put forth? Like were we disciplined or were we not?
Well, I think that people mistake these two things to be one and the same. There's being in motion and there's making progress. And most people kind of get caught up in the being, well, look, I did all this stuff today, right?
I was busy,
Yeah, I was
busy.
busy, right? I had an employee, he's on our marketing side this morning. He was very overwhelmed and he was pretty emotional about it. And I said, well, let's just talk about time management here. And so we talked about the Eisenhower matrix, right? Of urgent and important, not important, urgent, not urgent but important, and then but non-urgent, not important. And we kind of came, I said, give me a list of all these things. And the reality is most of them were either in the delegate or schedule, right? I'm like, you don't have to do all this stuff right now. And so I think the other thing too is to become, I love what Dave Meltzer says. He says, become a student of your calendar, right? Become an expert and a student of your calendar. And
Yes.
that's actually how you can really do this job. Like my sales managers were struggling to personally produce for a while because we recruit so much. They were feeling so overwhelmed with, you know, teaching new reps and supposedly guaranteeing their success. And we were in Canada after Door to Door Con Canada at dinner, actually, at that restaurant we went to. And Russo was there. And I said, hey, Russo, tell my guys what you would do in this situation. He's like, it's easy. He's like, schedule your own personal knocking time,
Yes.
your calendar. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, oh, I've been saying this since day one. But my sales managers have done that. I had a guy this month who didn't produce anything personally last month, but this month he's sold over 20 already. Because he scheduled, I said, take 2 5-hour periods per week. You can choose the day, but make sure they're prime time hours. Go out and produce for yourself. And he's like, it's life changing. I'm like, yeah, like calendar optimization is life changing. And so you're
Yes.
absolutely right, where it's like, look, if you go out and you create effective time. So with my guy this morning, I'm like, look at your calendar, bro. You have these big chunks of like project, and it's so ambiguous, like projects. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Like, what projects are you working on? Do you put an hour on this one, put a 2 hour on this one? So I think optimization in regard to the exact tasks that you have, and then also getting away from tasks that you should not do. Like People ask me all the time, Jess, like, why do you have 219 unread text messages? I'm like, because there are just some text messages that are not important for me to respond to. And at the same time, I never read a text message unless I should respond to it, and I won't respond to it till I'm ready. Like some people may not hear from me. You're like that as well. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like I may not hear from Jess till 2 days later, but I know if it's important, she's going to respond. But there's a prioritization there that has to happen. And you, as reps or sales managers or business owners, you can't just always be having your fire hose ready to put everything out, right? It's okay to be like, hey, this is not a big fire or this is not a fire at all. I can schedule, I can delegate, or I can not do anything, if that makes sense, you know?
No, it makes total sense. Prioritizing your day and being a captain of your calendar are like two of the most important things. It took me a long time to learn that, you know, becoming a wife and a mother to five kids and working full
You
time
got 5 kids.
and owning like the, you know, the circle at one point and managing 100 people in the circle. And it's like you have to prioritize your day and what's important and what's not. And we can only do so much. That was the exact next question is how as a manager or a boss can we manage our time, money, emotions of other people when you're the boss? And I think I'll add my 2 cents first, but I had to learn the hard way of taking care of me. You can't, it sounds so silly. We're talking about basic principles here that have been pounded in your head since you were a little kid, but I just don't think we actually internalize these things. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if my jar is empty and I have nothing left to give and I can't handle it and I'm overwhelmed, I have to take care of myself. That's what I have to do first. And Jordan, I think that you are excellent at that, but it's taken discipline, you know, and being a captain of your calendar and prioritizing that to say, I'm not missing a morning gym session. It's not happening. And not eating all the garbage because everybody else is eating it. And I know
Let's
that
leave it as later with Steven. That's it.
if I get to the gym early and I get that done and I get to work early, then I'm going to get home to my kids and be able to give to them as well and feel like I'm a fulfilled mother, father, you know, because you know, going back to that, we're dynamic humans that are so intertwined, our mental, spiritual, physical beings. We cannot separate those. So as much as we like to say that we can separate that, I don't truly believe in that. I think that we are so intertwined and everything goes hand in hand. So when we say, yeah, it does working out in the morning give you another dollar, yes. And that's because physically, when I'm taken care of, I can operate better mentally and be more disciplined in my job that gets me those dollars.
Absolutely. And I think it's, being a green space person, I think we can all probably feel the same way. Like I actually hate calendars, but at the same time, I've learned the value of scheduling and sticking to a schedule. I actually have an assistant. She's usually walking around yelling at me, but I have an assistant here who makes me stick to my calendar. Her name's she's a mean Jamaican lady, and she's very, very awesome because no, Jordan, you can't go off script. You can't cancel this meeting. You can't not show up to this meeting. You have this. I need you to do this. And because that's really where we win, right? It's like if you schedule it and you stick to your schedule, and that's a practice in and of itself. Like most of us, you could probably all raise your hands on this call and be like, I'm horrible at sticking to my calendar. I absolutely don't want to stick to it. I want constant options, right? But scheduling it out is the most important thing, including, like Jess said, time for you. I told this guy today, I'm like, look, take a break, but schedule it, right? If you're working for a 4 hour straight period, it's totally fine to be like, hey, from this time to this time, that's me time. Every day during lunch, I always listen to classical music. I might watch a YouTube video, it's typically like a history video. I want to disconnect. And then when I go home, I have hard boundaries as well. I use the do not disturb on my phone so religiously. Like if you text me before 8:30 in the morning, you're going to hear it from me after 8:30. If you text me after 8:30, and same thing with my bedtime. It's like people are like, dude, you go to bed at 9:30. I'm like, every single night, my phone's on silent. I plug it in. It's not plugged in right next to my bed. It's plugged in on the other side of my room. Yeah, Steven knows I am an early to bed guy, and I always get 7+ hours of sleep. I never ever skimp on the hours that I sleep. And so again, for a lot of you, you think that those are the things that you should sacrifice, like your health. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can't eat healthy because I'm too busy. Bullshit, right? It's like I can't, sleep more because, I got to be at the office. I'm like, no, you're just a horrible time manager. So if you schedule these things out And if you set hard boundaries, you'll be surprised how your life kind of funnels to all the right things, right? Because like Jess said, you're taking care of self. And that is, you hit it on the head right there. If you take care of self. Now that doesn't mean to the point of treat yourself, right? People get that confused, right? Treat yourself. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna go out and get drunk and I'm gonna do stupid shit and I'm gonna eat all this bad food. I'm gonna watch. No, no, no. Like take care of yourself and do the right types of activities, and then you will optimize, like truthfully, like working out in the morning. It doesn't matter, what you do, as long as it's strenuous exercise. You're waking up early, you're getting rid of television, you're not listening to stupid crap. You'll be surprised how much more time that you have when you sacrifice kind of like that treat yourself time for taking care of yourself time.
Yeah, no, I love that for sure. Um, Jordan, I want to like get a little bit vulnerable for a minute and talk to me about a time maybe when a moment that tested your belief. I love your stoicism that you have and this stoic belief. Talk to me about that, but maybe a time when you didn't operate in that way or something in your life that made you kind of question that belief.
Oh, for my whole life, right? Like, what, 2 hours ago, last week, yesterday? It's like, shoot, I've called you and I've called Steven, right? Where I'm second guessing everything. What do I do here? That's kind of a constant, and that's something to understand too. Is like all good business owners, all good self-employed people, we fire ourselves constantly and rehire ourselves constantly. We second guess everything. It's a constant state of not fear, but of uncertainty. And that's actually, you talk about stoicism. Stoicism is really the school of thought of how to engage uncertainty and how to engage the things that are unknown, how to embrace those things as part of life. I could come up with so many different examples of that, but to be very vulnerable, um, you know, I about 8 years ago, my wife and I were living in South Carolina. We were working for Ion Solar, and I was just a workaholic, and I wasn't healthy. I did binge watch TV. That was probably like 9 years ago, I guess now. And I wasn't there. I was there for the money. I was there. I sold lights out. I was a fantastic door-to-door salesman, great manager, had one of the top offices. And she woke up one day, she's like, I'm out. See you later. And man, did it break me? Did it just absolutely take me to rock bottom? And it was hard, and it was very very confrontational. I mean, my wife and I are luckily still together today. Have a great marriage, and we've really rebounded from that. But my father-in-law gave me some great advice, and at the time I wasn't really open to hearing his advice. But he said, "Look, you've got to change." He's like, "But you can't change for anybody else other than you." He's like, it has to be you. You have to be different for yourself. And when you learn how to love yourself and learn to change for yourself, everything else in your life will get better. And so, as far as that vulnerability is concerned, I questioned everything, right? I questioned my life, like, do I even have value in my life? To be very vulnerable, I thought of multiple times about, ending my own life in that situation. It wasn't worth it to me, right? But I will say that, you know, in that same time, my dad gave me some advice. He's like, look, I don't have the answer to everything, but he's like, listen, I'm old enough to know that if you just do the right thing, everything's going to work out. He's like, may mean you're going to die tomorrow, but if you do the right thing, everything's going to work out for everyone involved as well. And that's kind of what I go back to, in regard to stoicism is more of the philosophical explanation is how to act virtuously in relation to natural things, right? Natural things would be like adversity. Natural things would be flat tires. Natural things would be failures in business or failures in relationships. It's how to act virtuously in spite of those things, right? How do I continue to do the right thing even though all of this crap is being thrown in my face? And that's really the only answer there is. That if you choose the good for the sake of the good and not for a reward, whether you want to call it God, spaghetti monster in the sky, logos, pneuma, it doesn't really matter. That force, whether metaphysical or empirical, is going to reward you with the right reward. Now, and again, it may not always be what you're looking for. Like you may not have the right reward in mind, but it's always going to give back to you for your benefit if you do the right thing. And That's really all it comes down to more than anything else is discipline, success. It's all about doing the right thing. And some salespeople, they don't want to hear that, right? They're like, no, 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 I just want money. I just want cocaine and cotton candy. And it's like, well, you're in for a world of hurt because the best salespeople and the people that make the most money that I know are people who constantly, and they're not always perfect in it, but they are constantly trying to do the right thing in the face of so much adversity in their life.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we've all been through those trials and adversities, and I think I've like reheard that same story 5 billion times from a bunch of different people. You know, Brad from Repcard, our owner, he says the same thing about his marriage and going through a tough time and working. Sam Taggart will tell you the same thing, that he put his business before everything and worked his heart out, and you know, gave up on things at home. And I think that we just have to do the right thing all the time. And we're going to have moments where we fall short, but relying and always going back to doing the right thing is really what's going to change it. And you can come back, you know, from it for sure. So that's what separates the average from the exceptional people on the doors, is those that are doing what's right and that are just trying time and time again. We've all questioned, what the heck are we doing? You know, am I even worth it? Am I making a difference? Am I fulfilled? What am I doing here? Okay, Jordan, we've got a question in the chat for you. How do you implement a more fati on each door? Did I say that?
That's a great question. I love that you asked that, Quinlan. Number one, I try to implement that in everything that I do, right? And again, just like anything else, it takes practice, right? Amor fati, just for those who don't know, it means the love of fate, meaning that like as a Stoic, we accept everything not as good or bad, but just as is,
As
meaning
it
that
comes.
yeah, if someone, tells us to F off on a door or, someone slams the door in our face, the typical reaction is to take it personally or to view it as something that has to do with you or view it as good or bad, right? You see guys on Instagram who will fight, like they think it's funny to fight back and make fun of people. So the way that I implement it really is I engage every single door as a separate experience, right? I don't look at door knocking as a chunk of hours that I'm just talking. I look at it, every single door is a new experience, a new opportunity. It's a life and a death. And to really connect it, Quinlan, for like memento mori, right? I'm born when I first knock the door, I die when I walk away from the door. And so each experience is this opportunity for me to practice right then and there in that moment to accept whatever happens. Now, that doesn't mean that I have to accept if they say no, right? Like in fact, it's actually my duty if I really care about this person to work through the objections that they have because I do believe in my product. Like roofing is absolutely necessary for human life, right? Or if it's solar, then you really want to help these people save money and put money in their pocket or pest control because I hate spiders as well. You know what I mean? So for me, it really is, how do you implement it? Every experience, every single door is an opportunity for you to practice it, actually. In fact, one of the most powerful ways to practice this concept of acceptance, because really what amor fati is radical acceptance, right? Is go drive on any freeway, right? And someone's going to cut you off, they're going to tailgate you. And the best thing to do there is to be like, I accept this experience. And rather than take this personal, I'm just going to say it is what it is. And I'm going to continue on with my day because I am consistent in my own self-contained self. That might be too high level, to kind of understand, but Quinlan, I'm assuming since you're a student of Stoicism that connects with you. So I appreciate that question. And then James, do you have a mentor? Why or why not? I absolutely have multiple mentors and I pay for mentors. I'm a part of Dave Meltzer's mastermind. Absolutely love Dave Meltzer. He's one of the guys, the composite character of Jerry Maguire. It's him and Lee Steinberg, and he is just a wealth of knowledge. I also am a part of a couple other groups as well too. And one of my big mentors is actually a guy named Tom Morris. And Tom Morris, he created the political philosophy department at Notre Dame. He's currently at UNC Chapel Hill, and I participate in his mastermind, which is actually just a bunch of academics. He puts on little events in Wilmington, North Carolina, that I'm privileged to go to, and most of those events are non-business related. The last event that we went to was how to engage uncertainty with equanimity, and we spent a weekend on talking about that concept alone. And so, how do I go about finding them? It's a good question. Dave. I met him through door to door, but really there are people that I follow, on Instagram or I hear about, and I like to put them to the test as well. And nothing against like your Andy Elliott's, Nothing against, some of your more business tailored ones. Business, skills and ethics are just a descendant of philosophical tenets, right? And so I tend to seek more of the highest level. And Tom Morris, I just happen to it's funny that you should ask that because most of the relationships I've made have been from me just being in the place and meeting these people, right? Tom Morris, I met at a philosophy symposium. We were sitting at the back of the room, and there was this funny old guy cracking jokes the whole time. And then when it came time for the keynote speaker to be on, it was him. And, I met up with him afterwards and we started becoming texting buddies and stuff. And so, a lot of times it's just from being in the right places at the right time. I meet people and if we're infectious, with potential and positivity, people want to mentor us. Actually, people want to take us under their wing. So James, for you, if you're really trying to be, high level, be high level, right? Practice sleeping so that you can fall asleep, and those people will actually typically find you, to be honest. But totally fine to reach out, put people to the test, for the programs they have. Again, if you're not engaging, this is like an infomercial for Ashton Buswell, but Ashton has a great coaching program, teaching sales skills and mentality and all of the skills that you're looking for as well. But I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Jordan, we'll wrap it up there. I sure appreciate you. Can't thank you enough for jumping on with us and always just giving us your wealth of knowledge and experience and sharing all your wisdom. So I love it, Jordan. We appreciate you. Thanks for all that you do. And thanks for jumping on today.
Thanks, Jess.
Yep, we'll see you guys next week on the webinar.